Hello again, and welcome to Whitman Partners Behind the Red Line Q2 in Review. I'm Josiah Whitman. What a quarter it has been. With rapid rate hikes from the Fed, you may be interested in how that translates into candidates' willingness to relocate. With inflation in high single digits, you may be wondering if there's a correlation to salaries. Finally, how does all of this economic upheaval manifest in the number of Director of Surgical Services positions open nationwide? What can we see with the data? Let's begin. First, let's look at new job orders opened. Our April, May, June second quarter number was an average of 150 new Director of Surgical Services vacancies per month. I have a high degree of confidence in this because it's a blend of ad runs, of which we have a process in place to capture 100%, and a smaller number of organic openings, word of mouth. So 150 is down from first quarter's 175. This tells me that there isn't as much of a churn of directors of surgical services leaving their position. What we're seeing, and this is borne out in the objections we're hearing to our recruiting call, is I don't want a new permanent director of surgical services position. I attribute this to all the things that we read about in the Wall Street Journal about great resignation, COVID fatigue, being overworked and underappreciated in healthcare. Second, let's look at the average salaries for a director of surgical services. In the aggregate, it is bouncing around from 144,000 to 151,000. Overall, if we were to smooth out the peaks and troughs, we'd see that the trend line is up from about 144,000 in September to 148,000 in June. So nearly a 3% increase in 9 months, or 4% per year. Frankly, I would expect this number to accelerate over time. Things to note here. First, these data points are over hundreds of jobs. Second, these are our salary estimates. And while my team may be experts on estimating salaries, our estimates are subject to the lag of actually placing directors of surgical services into their new positions. Thus, the sticker shock of what the director of surgical services actually accepts in an offer versus the salary range given to us from HR informs future estimates. Third, let's look at candidates that are relocating. You can see that the graph has remained flat at 65% that are open to relocation. Keyword open to. We've had examples of candidates that have accepted the position and then fallen off come relocation time. And that may explain why the graph is flat. And my prediction would be that this will tick lower as the interest rates will be discouraging of relocation earlier in the exploration process. Rest assured that we're training our recruiters who are in turn coaching our candidates to be thinking about relocation in terms of renting as well as buying. So that's what I'm seeing. Some changes clearly evidenced in the data and reinforced in objections we're hearing, such as I don't want a new permanent director of surgical services job. Others that we think is a lagging indicator, such as salaries or relocation. Final point. I track client demand both inbound and outbound on a weekly basis, and we've seen no drop off month over month or quarter over quarter, which goes to something an economist I met with recently told me, which is that even an economist cannot look at GDP by industry, pull the healthcare graph, and point out the recessions. They can do it in manufacturing, insurance, retail, and banking, but not in healthcare. It goes to the recession-proof nature that supposedly we benefit from in healthcare. Whether or not we're in a recession may be a topic for next quarter's Behind the Red Line quarter in review. Until then, keep up the great work.